So today is bottling day. We've got a bunch of bottles like this. We only actually like about 5 St. Sebastian bottles. These are really good. They're stone bottles. They're really awesome for brewing. I like them. Keeps the light out real well, and you can just clean these up real nice. You can remove this little seal and buy new ones, so that's no big deal if they ever get damaged or anything, or if they get like you leave them somewhere and they get moldy. You can just pop those off. These you don't really want to let get moldy because they are somewhat porous on the inside, so you make sure you clean them real well. And then in the bucket here we have some Grolsch bottles as well with the same style kind of cap. You know, our brush. You need a brush. Couple of things of hot soapy water, and we'll mix up some sanitizer for the last step. Right now we're just going to give our bottles that we've stored, like got a bunch here that's sitting a while. It's a little bit of dust and stuff on them. They were clean before they were put away, so shouldn't be too bad. Just got to give them a quick once over. And then we got over here, we got our American Pale Ale, which we made some videos with. Looks like it might be a little bit darker than we wanted it to. We'll see. Maybe it's just because it's all in the vat still with the tube and stuff, and we'll filter that out a little bit with a strainer and some cheesecloth when we go to bottle. But yeah, so we're gonna do a little bit of bottling today. It's gonna be cool. Would also just like to note real quick that this other container we use for rinse water before we sanitize, get the soap residue off. Alright, so here's how the process works. This one's not done either. I just kind of washed around it. I don't think there's very much inside of it either. Basically what we're doing here, a little kind of like chain system going on. Just having him wash up the bottle with some soap with the brush a couple times. We got all our bottles soaked down here. You're sinking to the bottom. You gotta be careful you don't break any. You don't want to cut your hands up or anything. And then after he's done with them, and I take him over here. Well, first, hold on. I use the little rag. Little rag here, and I'll just give it a once over with this. Try to do it with one hand. And just take it over here and fill it up with water, get it all nice and rinsed off. All that soap bubbles out of there. Shake it dry. Take it over there upside down. We're not really trying to dry them right now because we're just going to go straight into sanitize after this and bottle still. But that's how we're doing it. Also, wanted to note that while you're doing this, it's a good time to kind of go through and inspect all of the bottles for any cracks or chips in the tops. That it's gonna mess up you won't want to use those if they're cracked or chipped or anything. Just get new bottles. We've been going through them as we go. Like I said, also be very careful when you have them in the water. And one other thing we wanted to add was my buddy here was saying, and I didn't say it out loud, but we've discussed this a bit, is about your sanitation routine. That's what's going to take, some beer and ruin it completely. And depending on how much time you have invested, money you have invested, I mean, right there in that carboy is, $50-$60. Not to mention the time you put into it. It's been fermenting now for about a month and a half, a couple days shy. And it's a real big bummer if you do everything proper at this point, all the way up into this point. You got a good fermented beer that's nice and sterile in there. You haven't opened it. except for if you re-rack, if you choose to do that, you don't have to. Some people let it sit on the tube. We like to separate it, siphon it out with an auto siphon. It's very easy to do with this style. This is the Big Mouth Bubbler. You can pick them up at Northern Brewer online. Very easy to do. You can, if you got a small enough wine thief, you can just, with a siphon tube and a rack and cane, you can just get right through here after you take this bung out. Or you can just, don't worry about siphoning it and use the spigot and pour it directly into another container. That way you don't risk getting any other bacteria or wild yeast into your brew, which will totally ruin it. So that's why you minimize that. But also, as my friend also pointed out, is yes, if you've done everything correct to this point, but you do not properly sanitize your bottles and wash your bottles like we are doing here today, then what you can have on your hands are little beer bombs, because an infected beer is a lot more likely to explode than just a regular standard beer. Also, when you let them sit, you got to want to watch the temperature, because if you're naturally carbonating like we do, the yeast are going to continue to eat away at the little bit of priming sugar you add in there. So also any other bacteria inside are going to reproduce and eat away at that as well, and can cause some serious problems and some huge messes. You don't want to hurt yourself or anybody else, or just waste beer in general, and money and time. People do this because it's fun. It's not really all that much cheaper than buying your own beer if you do the math, depending on what you're making, I suppose, and what quantities you're buying in. But that's neither here nor there. We do this because it's fun, and we get to make different kinds of beer that our friends and family and ourselves can enjoy and be like, hey, I made that. That didn't come from a gigantic macro brewery. They didn't water it down and ultra pasteurize it and boil all the flavors and everything out of it. This is a good, flavorful beer, and you made it yourself. And that's why we do that. So why not take the extra, little bit of effort, hot soapy water, mild soapy water, rinse it off, let it dry for a bit, upside down like that. If you got a bottle tree, great, makes it a lot easier. And then we're going to re-sanitize all these right before we bottle. So it's a little bit extra work, but you don't want to screw up now. All right, so we're almost about ready to move to this next step here. This is some more equipment that you're going to need. This is what we're going to use here. We're going to use some cheesecloth. Okay. We're going to put that in I got a metal strainer. It's over here in the rinse bucket. We still got to sanitize the rest of this stuff over here. It's just chilling in the rinse bucket. This metal strainer will go inside of this right here. And we were going to pour from that spigot into this carboy, which I'm just about to wash and sanitize right now. And then that's just to separate. First of all, we got our bag of dry hops in there. A little mesh bag with some hops in it. It's been sitting for a few. Giving a little extra flavor, add a little bit of aroma. We don't have a lot of trube down there, but as you can see, there's some. So we're going to try to get rid of that as best we can with the strainer and stuff. I mean, some of that is a little bit of yeast, so we don't want to be getting everything out because we're going to naturally bottle. So we want to make sure, that there are enough yeast inside the beer here so that it'll bottle properly. We'll add in some priming sugar in a water solution. We'll boil. But also I wanted to add this brush here that I have is not the same brush I used last time, and I can't find it to clean these bottles because this one You can get it in there if you jam it in there, but then it's a pain in the butt to get out. So because I can't, it's all pretty cleaned. I mean, these got rinsed before use, or after use, I should say. After they were consumed, the beers that came in them, we rinsed them out really well and everything and stored them. So there's probably not a lot to scrub out with the brush, but just to be on the safe side, we're actually going to exclude those from today's bottling process. And we added a couple. We got a couple like tall boy brown bottles and a couple other bottles we're going to use. But I really like these bottles. I like to use them every time, but can't find the other brush. So we're going to just do it a little bit different. Again, it's kind of like that trying to practice good sanitation. Well, if you can't properly sanitize them and wash them, then don't use it, you know? And the camera's getting all freaking blurry again. But also, over here, so we had the cheesecloth. We have our hydrometer and our cylinder. This is some corn sugars, priming sugar. Got that. We're going to need that for bottling. And then I have some oxygen absorbing yellow crowns. So these are just standard. Pick up online or brew store. Same thing here. We just have some different ones. These ones are gold. They're from a Mr. Beer company. We're going to use those to kind of separate the ones, because we're splitting this batch up a little bit. So separate a few of the beers we'll have with the gold caps. And again, yeah, we're going to sanitize this. I do have a rack and cane. We're just not going to use it because we have the spigots on these. So it's going to be good. And we'll see you in a few.